Hey everybody, it's Mr. Cadell. I'm here to help you get through Chapter 6, specifically the first portion of Chapter 6 in this video. It's all about cells. Chapter 6 takes us through kind of the big parts of how cells are organized. We don't really get much into cell membranes yet, but think about things that you know about cells. Like, what things have you been familiarized with? Do you know about the nucleus, mitochondria, the cell membrane, maybe even a little bit, ribosomes? Have you heard of these things before? So that's where we're going. Understand that we don't have to do this entire chapter. We're just asked to do kind of the middle section. And right now, what my job is to help get you through 6.2. We're going to do a little bit of the beginning of the cell chapter, and then I'll talk one slide on 6.1, but mostly 6.2. This is on pages 98 through 101, so make sure to go there right now. I recommend that you open up your book. You're going to see the same figures that you see in your text with me right now, and pay special attention to pages 100 and 101. They're kind of big pictures of the eukaryotic and plant cells. Alright, by the end of this, you should know these three objectives. These are obviously 4, 5, and 6 on this chapter. Get them down. That you're going to be tested on them, and ensure that you know them. In fact, I'm going to stop right at the end and have you spend a moment taking a look at them. Remember that all life is organized in this stepwise sequence of small to big. And so what we've got here is we've got some atoms, and these atoms are part of a molecule. Great, you know, these things can be put together to make organelles, and these guys can be then put together to make what we call cells. These are the smallest units of living matter that exist on our planet. Another big theme I want you to make sure that you pay attention. Pay attention to in this chapter is this one. I'm struggling to try and figure out how to do this. Is that structure is related to function. There's nothing in biology which has not been selected against by evolution. And so whenever you see something like these red blood cells, they are that shape and that size, and they do that function for a reason. And really, something structure is equal to its function. That's one of the major themes of this entire course. I'm going to try to hide this. Yeah, it worked. And all cells come from pre-existing cells. Just try to remember that. 6.1 is really about microscopes and what they can see. And the key point that I want you to get here is that there's a huge variation of size within life. Atoms are super duper small. A nanometer is like 10 to the minus 6th of a meter. It's a 1/100,000th of a meter, and this is a tenth of that. So this is 1/1,000,000th of a meter would be the size of the diameter of an atom. And you can see here, take a look at how these things are oriented with respect to their size. Still, micrometers 10 to the this is 10 to the minus 6, nanometers 10 to the minus 9th. Sorry about that. Super duper small. You just can't see any of this stuff. And to be honest, most people have never seen science has never seen ribosomes or proteins or lipids. We've just kind of figured out through chemistry what they look like. So you have to have a little bit of faith when you get into cellular size and the components of cells. The question that I'm going to pose to you now is, what makes a eukaryotic cell eukaryotic? You see here it says they're characterized by having, and then there's a colon. Think about it. Press pause maybe. Even try to remember and access that pre-existing knowledge that you have from middle school. What do eukaryotic cells have? You'll see here now that two things that they do have is DNA and a nucleus, and these things called membrane-bound organelles. Examples would be like ribosomes, lysosomes, things like that. We're going to get into all those. It's important to understand that the DNA is in like a bag. The nucleus is just a phospholipid coating. It's like fat that's covering the DNA, but the point is that it's protecting the DNA from all the digestive enzymes that exist out there in the cytoplasm. Also, when we talk about the cytoplasm, it says here it's the region between the plasma membrane and the nucleus. It's a place where all the organelles exist, these membrane-bound things that actually do all the functions within the cells. They're really big, eukaryotic cells are. They're like 100 to 1,000 times larger than prokaryotic cells, which characterize things like bacteria. Well, it's all held in by this membrane, and you can see here that the membrane has these different regions: hydrophilic, hydrophobic. We've already gone over those terms. You can see here that there's some things within the cell membrane itself. Here's some proteins. Here's a carbohydrate side chain. These all have uses and reasons for being there, and we're going to get more into that in Chapter 7. But the point is that the membrane holds the interior components of the cell safe from the outside world, and it acts as like a conduit that stuff can come and go through the membrane. You see here it says oxygen, nutrients, and waste. Please press pause and try to answer this question, and we'll see how you're doing with cell membranes. Here's a eukaryotic cell. Press pause, go to page 100, whatever you need to do. Make sure that you understand at least what these look like right now. All these organelles, kind of maybe their size in relation to each other, maybe even hypothesize what they do, because we're gonna really get into each one. Same goes with a plant cell, and the big difference between a plant cell and an animal cell is this wall, the cell wall. It's got these guys called chloroplasts, which actually make glucose from light energy and water and carbon dioxide, and as well as these big water storage organelles called vacuoles, and they're usually in the middle. They're usually really big. But otherwise, eukaryotic cells and plant cells. This is a general eukaryotic cell, and here's a type of eukaryotic cell, which is a plant cell. They're really the same. Here's something that all cells include, and the reason why this is here, and I didn't like the way that your book went back and did this after initially defining eukaryotic cells, is because they want to now tell you stuff that prokaryotic cells have also. And you can see here, here's a prokaryotic cell compared to a eukaryotic cell. This is important. Understand that eukaryotic cells, let's try to get this right, have these guys called ribosomes. They not only have DNA stored in chromosomes, and you can see that right here, like eukaryotic cells do, but then they use that information to create proteins, and ribosomes are the players there that do it. They also have a plasma membrane, but they also do have a cell wall, these prokaryotic cells. You can see here that the DNA just kind of floats around those chromosomes. They're not within a nucleus, and they're not protected, and I think that leads to more mutations within bacteria, which actually gives them a benefit of being able to evolve more quickly because they have those mutations. It's kind of an interesting thing that they have. The last thing that we need to talk about in this section is cell size. If you could imagine over millennia or billions of years, there have been animals and organisms and plants and even bacteria that have been born with cells of different sizes. Nature's always tinkering with size and shape of everything by mutations through DNA. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, why is cell size pretty similar throughout the natural world? The cell size of a cell in a whale, a blue whale, let's say the biggest living organism, is the same as the cell size in a flea. And why is that? And while I find this graphic to be incredibly confusing every time I look at it, I just know that the cell size is pretty consistent throughout nature for two reasons. The first one is cell distance within the cell. I showed you earlier on the plasma membrane slide that oxygen comes in and so do nutrients and waste leaves. If those distances become too great within a cell, if there's just too much energy to move those things back and forth to where they need to be, then it'll take too long. Additionally, if the other reason why cells are similar size is because of surface area. There needs to be enough surface area on the surface so that stuff can come and go, nutrients and oxygen in and waste out. If there isn't enough surface area for that diffusion or that release of those components to take place, the cell is just not big enough and it will die. I hope that helped. Take a moment, press pause here. We're at the end of this little tutorial on 6.1 and 6.2.